territories, with Ottawa being the capital city of Canada. Canada is also the first country to adopt a policy for multiculturalism, embracing diversity. Canada is home to over 250 ethnic origins. The largest groups among these visible minorities come from Asia, Africa, and Europe. Another key factor on what makes Canada great is their international quality of education. Canada has one of the best educational systems in the world. Canada is recognized worldwide for outstanding quality of education, from elementary school all the way to post-secondary school. Canada also has 11 of the top 250 universities in the world. University of Toronto is ranked number 1 in Canada and number 23 in the world. University of British Columbia is ranked number 2 in Canada and number 38 in the world, while McGill University is ranked number 3 in Canada and number 78 in the world. Canada has also been consistently ranked as one of the safest nations in the world. In a recent study, in 2018, the Global Peace Index has ranked Canada as the 6th peaceful country across the globe. As international students, you can assure to be safe and enjoy the same right as any other Canadians. Now, let's talk about North Vista Immigration. North Vista Immigration has over 30 years of combined experience. Our consultants practice and follow the ethical and professional code of conduct. We have a very strong Google review presence, and we have helped clients from various parts of the world. Now that you know a little bit about North Vista Immigration, let's find out about our senior consultants. These are our 2 RCIC senior experienced consultants, Mr. Alex Romano and Mr. Nabil Khan. Alex Romano is the president and co-founder of North Vista Immigration. He holds the designation of Regulated Canadian Immigration Consultant and is a chartered professional accountant. Mr. Romano is in good standing and was granted a license to practice immigration law under ICCRC. Mr. Nabil is the vice president of North Vista Immigration and is a research specialist on matters pertaining to Canadian immigration law and regulations. As a co-founder of North Vista Immigration, Mr. Nabil Khan brings East Asian values in a Canadian study. He is a member in good standing and was granted a license to practice immigration law under ICCRC as well. Now that we learned about our 2 senior consultants, let's talk about how many study permits were issued in Canada. As you can see in the chart, there were over 404,000 study permits issued in 2019. That's an increase of over 50,000 study permits from the year before in 2018. In the future of 2021, there is an estimated of over 450,000 study permits that will be issued. Now, one of those study permits can be for you. Now that we see how many study permits are issued over time, let's see how many study permits are issued in some African countries over the last few years. In this chart, you can see that study permits that are issued in Nigeria and some African countries such as Nigeria is that in 2018, there were only 6,520 study permits that were issued. In 2019, there was almost an increase of 1,000 as 7,555 Nigerian students were accepted to come to Canada to study. In Ghana, in the year 2018, there were only 845 study permits that were issued. Well, in 2019, there was an increase where only 1,345 study permits were issued. In Tanzania, there were only 365 study permits were issued in 2018 and 435 in 2019. Now, due to the COVID-19, the number of study permits went dramatically down in the year 2020. So therefore, 2021 would be the year where record-breaking numbers for study permits would be issued. Now that we have an understanding of how many African citizens got accepted to Canada, let's talk about some of the eligibility criteria. In order to have a high success rate, the eligible criteria would be for those who already have a post-secondary education and are wishing to further their education by obtaining a postgraduate diploma or their master's. Now, for those who only have high school or higher education, you're still welcome to apply for a study permit where you'll be able to come to Canada and study a bachelor's degree or a diploma. Secondly, you would have to have a good level of English in all modules such as speaking, listening, reading, and writing, preferably a CLB 7. This can all be done by taking an IELTS test. If you feel like you don't have a good level of English, don't worry. We can still help you through an English pathway program. Now, this is very important. You must have funds in your account to prove that you'll be financially capable of meeting the tuition fees and your living expenses while you're in Canada. Now, keep in mind, this is only a guide for higher probability of success. Now that we know about what the eligibility criteria is, let's find out what some of the tuition costs would be. As you can see in this chart, Canada's fairly low when it comes to annual tuitions. When you're comparing it to Australia, you would need to spend an extra $12,000 to study. If you're comparing it to the United Kingdom, you would need an extra $14,000 to study. And finally, if you're choosing to study in the United States, you'll be required to spend almost an extra $23,000 on your tuition fees annually. During the past few days, we have been receiving various inquiries regarding scholarships. When it comes to scholarships, they're only offered to those exceptional students who have above average grades. Every university and college offers some sort of scholarship. However, it's only for those who have very high grades. Most scholarships would only cover 20 to 30% of your tuition costs. For example, if your tuition cost is only $10,000, you would only receive a scholarship for up to $3,000, and that's only after you paid your first year. The eligibility criteria would vary from school to school, and we will be able to assist you in getting scholarships based on you meeting the eligibility criteria of the school. Now that we understand what the tuition cost would be, let's move on how we can help you by telling you what the processing steps would be. The first step that we would do is give you an assessment form. This form will be able to tell us who you are and what credentials you possess, such as your age, your highest level of education, and any work experience you may have. Once we go through your assessment form, we will be able to provide you with the right feedback by coaching and counseling you on how you can immigrate to Canada to study. If it comes to be that you may not be eligible, we would still be able to provide you with detailed information on what you would have to do so that you do become eligible in the near future. And lastly, we will initiate the application process and prepare a very strong case for you. Now that you know what the processing steps are, I'm going to talk to you about the benefits of our services. The benefits of our services will strategize a pathway that fits your needs by advising you and guiding you on how you can successfully come to Canada to study. Upon the completion of your studies, we can help you find a job in your respective field, which can help you lead to permanent residency. We also coach you on information that you may not know, which may help you going forward. Lastly, it's very important that you should consult our experienced consultant to develop a strategic pathway should you wish to apply for PR in Canada. Now, this is a topic that I hope that many of you don't go through. However, it is a reality when you apply for study permits on your own. And the next topic is refusals and rejections. We've had many clients in the past that attempted to apply for their own study permits and were not successful and would revert to us to apply for a successful study permit. It is very important for you to let the professionals handle the applications for you. Applicants that have submitted incomplete or wrong information could have misrepresented themselves, which can lead to unrepairable damage. And in some cases, you may be being barred from Canada for up to 5 years. Now, this is where our experience comes in to help you. Trust an experienced licensed immigration consultant. You can find all our information on our website at northvistaimmigration.com. You can check our Facebook page out at North Vista Immigration, follow us on Twitter, and check our YouTube videos on our YouTube channel. Now, keep in mind, every case is unique and requires a strategic and guidance to submit a strong application. If you have any questions, you can always WhatsApp me at 902-818-6171 or leave us an email at office@northvistaimmigration.com. And please note down the discount code NVISP 2020 to receive a discount on your consultation. If you guys have any questions, please drop down your questions on the chat and we will get to you. We're not going to have any Q&As. Some of the most common questions that we do get at our office is, if someone wishes to come to study, are they able to work? Under the Canadian immigration law, an international student is allowed to work for up to 20 hours per week and can work full-time during the your holiday breaks, your winter holiday breaks, and your summer breaks. Oh, good question. So the average fee to speak with our consultant with the discount code would be $50 Canadian. Now, I also want to let everyone know that the $50 that you pay in order to get the consultation does get credited back to you if you choose to retain us for our services. I hope that answers your question, Joseph. So another question, a common question that we get is, can your family come along with you when you come to study in Canada? And the answer is, only your spouse or your children are the only ones that are allowed to come with you in order for you, allowed to accompany you while you're in Canada studying. So we got a question from David. Going to a university with low tuition fee, does it limit your chance to get a visa? No, that doesn't. Every school offers their own pricing. So just because you choose to go to a university that has a low tuition fee compared to other ones does not harm you and for you to get approved or not. Another question. Is it okay? Okay, so it's not a scholarship. I don't quite get your question, Edward. If you can please clarify. Alex, do you need a study plan? Yes, you do need a study plan when you are applying for a study permit application. We will, during your consultation with the consultant would be able to explain to you what would be in the study plan. Ideally, that would be our job when we apply for a study permit to come up with a very good study plan to give you a very good advantage on your study permit application. What are the most common reasons for denial of study visa? That honestly depends on who you are and your history. Some of the most common reasons would be due to funds. Another reason is a lack of family ties back home, such as if you come to Canada, they may not expect you to come back. So you would have to prove that you're only going to Canada to study. I hope that answers your question, Andrew. So another common question that we usually get is, what happens after you study? Ideally, when you finished your studies in Canada, depending on what program and what school you attend to, you may be eligible to get a work permit for up to 3 years. And based on that work permit and based on what job you work, this can help you lead to permanent residency. For Alex, what is the right time to apply? So in Canada, the intakes are from September, January, and May. So September would be the fall term, January would be the winter term, and then May would be the summer term. Sorry, Edward, I didn't get your question. When it comes down to scholarships, You would still have to pay your tuition fees. And once you pay your tuition fees, that is when you would get an acceptance letter. Also, when you're trying to get your scholarship, you would have to pay your tuition fee and then you will get reimbursed with whatever amount you would be eligible for. Yes, Alex, if you speak French, this would be a big advantage for you in when you come to Canada. If anyone else has a question, please feel free to drop your questions in the comment section. Okay, I got some here. Joseph, I'm from Ghana and English is my official language. Do I still need to have an English test? Yes, Joseph. As part of the requirement for a study permit in Canada is that you would be required to do an IELTS test. However, if your IELTS test is low, you do not need to worry. We can still be able to help you out to come to Canada by putting you in an English pathway program. I think I answered your question already with about the university low tuition fee. Why is it advisable to take a postgraduate diploma other than a master's degree? Um, Honestly, David, that depends on what you really are trying to accomplish. If you're trying to come here for the best education and you want to do your master's degree, then of course doing a master's degree would be more beneficial for you. However, if you're looking to come here to get an Canadian education and become a PR, our experienced consultant can explain to you why doing a postgraduate diploma may be a better advantage for you than doing a master's degree. Okay, let me see. How easy to get scholarships in Canadian universities? As mentioned before, Andrew, you would need to have very high exceptional grades. They do not give them scholarships out to an average student. You need to be above and beyond. Like your average has to be above 80% to be considered for high scholarships in Canadian universities. It is a very, very rare situation where a scholarship would be able to pay for your whole tuition fee. Ideally, if your goal is to come to Canada to study on a fully paid scholarship, unfortunately, that's going to be very, very rare. Would a master's grant mean more points in the future? Um, to be honest with you, Alex, I think it would be best if you can privately message us so we can look more into detail on what kind of education, what kind of skills and credentials you have to see if you doing your master's would make a difference in your points for you to become a PR in Canada in the future. So another question from Andrew. If the university I'm attending waives the English language proficiency test, is it still necessary for the study permit? Yes, it is. You'll still need to do an IELTS test as it is a requirement in order for you to get a study permit approved. So we have a question from Joseph. How can you write it if you're in Ghana? You can Google on which schools or institutions allows that offers IELTS testing. To be honest with you, I'm not too sure where in Ghana they offer it, but I do know they do offer IELTS tests all over the world. Okay, Ali, if the province of Ontario PNP grants master students, can this help? So Alex, I feel like you're getting in more details about some questions. I think it will be best for you to give us a call and we can answer your call directly with you and then we can explain your options. Okay. don't have any more questions. What do you need to apply for a scholarship? That's a very good question, Elizabeth. What do you need to apply for a scholarship is you need to be able to provide the school that you're applying for a transcript of your either your high school or your latest program that you did. And based on your GPA is when they will consider in giving you a scholarship or not. I hope that answers your question, Elizabeth. Correct. Aside from the English test, CV and certificates and proof of identification, what other documents is necessary? So Karen, there's actually a list of documents that would be needed in order to apply for a study permit. What you can do is you can privately message us. Ideally, when you book a consultation with our consultant, the consultant will be able to provide you a whole list of the documents that we would need in order for us to apply for a study permit for you. I think I just answered that question, Andrew. What documents are necessary for study permit application? Well, once you book your appointment with our consultant, the consultant will be able to tell you what sort of documents that would be needed in order for us to submit a study permit application. It would all depend on who you are and what program you're going to be studying for, as it can range from someone who just finished high school that wants to start, let's say, a diploma, versus someone who has finished a degree program and is starting to do that's looking to do their master's. So the requirements of documents will differ from case to case and person to person. Can we do a transfer program and also get a study permit? I don't understand what you mean by transfer program, Elizabeth. Due to the Atlantic program, does that mean going to one of those universities, those provinces guarantee you 70% PR? One of the biggest things in this field is that we cannot guarantee you anything. We can only guarantee you a very high success application. So the Atlantic pilot program, if you were to study at a school at an Atlantic province, such as, for example, if you were to study in Nova Scotia has pathways where they will assist students who graduated school from a Nova Scotia institution. I'm not going to say it guarantees you 70% of chance to get PR, but you would have a better advantage versus someone who would want to come and study, let's say, in Ontario, where majority of people in Canada live in. Will using a professional provide me with great success rate than doing myself? That's a very good question, Alex. As I mentioned before, we do have tons of people that do come to us that attempted to apply for a study permit on their own and were ultimately refused. And we were able to reapply for them and get it, and we're able to succeed with it. So to answer your question, it is very important for you guys to get the professional help, because if you continue to apply for study permits on your own and you start creating a record of refusals, this can potentially harm you from ever applying to come to Canada, as it has a very bad track record on your record. So if you let a professional apply for your study permit, they'll be able to do it and can provide you a very, very high success rate. Okay, Vera. Nice to meet you, Vera. I was inquiring about nursing in case I want to apply. Sorry, I was inquiring about nursing in case I want to apply. How long does a program take for an already registered nurse and do the English proficiency test? So Vera, I think we did talk about this when you inquired about this. It all depends on what particular school and what particular program you're going to do. And you will still need to do an English proficiency test, even if you come from an English speaking country. You will still need to do an English proficiency test. What does it cost for your service? That's a good question, Andrew. So the cost of our service, honestly, it can vary from case to case, from person to person. So it's very hard for me to tell you exactly how much we charge. Once you book an appointment with our consultant, they will be able to give you a better idea on how much our services will cost depending on your complexity of your case. Okay, let me see. So hope, like if you want to, yes, so you do have the option of, if you're, let's say you apply to a school, you get accepted and you have a study permit approved, and after you attend that school, you find out that the school is not the best fit for you, you do have the option of transferring to a different school. Karen, do you also help process work permits? Yes, we do. We also do help process work permits as long as you meet the eligible requirements. So how much you take on average? And so, like I said, Andrew, it all depends on the case and the complexity of your case. On average, if it's not too much of a complexity, we can charge from anywhere between 700 to almost 1300 if it's a very complex case. Now, do keep in mind that as part of our service is that we do look for the school, a cost efficient school that offers the program of your choice. And we also look for the schools that will be able to offer you work permits upon the completion of your studies. And yes, Andrew, that is in Canadian dollars. So if anyone has any more questions, please feel free to leave a text on WhatsApp. For those who didn't get our number, it is 902-818-6171. You can always email us at office@northvistaimmigration.com. I'll just answer this one last question from Vera. Do you offer some scholarship for students that can't afford the full course? And what if I gain my experience in in different hospitals and my attachments? Could I get a recommendation letter? So as I mentioned about scholarships earlier, Vera, scholarships would only provide up to 20 to 30% of the tuition cost, and you must have exceptional grades in order to be even qualified for that. That's on average. Every school and every college and university have different requirements when it comes down to scholarships. Okay, so we're going to end the webinar on that note. So if anyone, Vera, if you have anyone else has any more questions, please feel free to message us on WhatsApp or leave us an email at office@northwestimmigration.com, and we'll connect with you at the earliest convenience. I hope everyone has a great weekend and stay safe. Thank you for attending the webinar.